All right, folks, welcome to episode 26 of Biomassed, the podcast, the one and only, the reigning undisputed heavyweight champion of Dust podcasts. Apparently, the fact that I think we're the only competitor has absolutely nothing to do with the fact we're the champ. Just throwing that out there. Tonight we actually have a pretty short show tonight. We like to go for quality over quantity, and usually what we tend to do is go way more quantity than we have quality. So we had to kind of pare things down. We wanted to shake things up. So we brought in a special guest tonight. A lot of you folks that are veterans in the Dust community will recognize him, and we'll let him get an intro in just a second. But it's going to be myself, Soraya Zell, and our special guest star. And we're going to start out with a little bit of intros. So, John, why don't you give us a quick intro to who you are, brother?
Hey guys, I'm General John Ripper, or Immortal John Ripper now. I've been playing Dust since open beta. I never played closed beta, but I love this game and I've been around for a long time.
Awesome. He is otherwise known as the man of 1,000 alts and the likest of the like generators. Actually, that's a great punk rock name. You got to steal that one for your band, brother. Zell?
I'm Soraya Zell, a CPM1 member, a co-host here on Biomassed, and a leader of the Top Men Alliance.
Alrighty, and I'm Jaysyn Larison. I'm a member of OSG Planetary Operations on Dust and Agony Unleashed on the Eve side. And I am also a co-host here on Biomassed. So tonight, like I said, we get kind of a mini-sode for you tonight, and that's okay. Sometimes things are a little bit slow for us in the Dust world, but the cool thing is we've got a couple sort of key topics that we'll lay out for everybody, and we'll just kind of chat through. Again, pretty informal tonight, so we're going to go ahead and get started with a CPM 1 update from Soraya.
I got nothing for you today. It's been a slow week. It's been a slow week everywhere.
Well, and actually that is I kind of figured you were going to say that. Not that I have any idea what you're going to say before we start the show, by the way.
Of course not.
Actually, that is something I did want to bring up, though. Is I'm kind of curious just on your general thoughts. Since you and the other CPM1 guys have been kind of in the saddle for several weeks now, is it more or less the amount of information that you thought you would be seeing prior to your election? I'm just kind of curious about that.
Probably pretty similar. I mean, I would like more than we get all the time, but I don't think that there's certainly not a huge issue with information that we need not being available either. I think sometimes people, like I've seen a couple forum posts that act like, well, we should have all this information, and I always kind of chuckle a bit because usually it's information that we don't have. Is we don't have like access to financial spreadsheets and the server statistics and everything. It's like we get information when we're discussing a certain issue with someone at CCP, and there's no need to in their case to not present the relevant information. But it's not like we just have access to this cache of data. It'd be kind of fun if we did, but we don't.
Okay, now that's kind of cool. So I'm just kind of curious, but do you guys like broadly? Is it the type of information or data that you thought you'd see, not just like the quantity, but like are you guys able to see or interact with enough stuff to provide like the valid feedback or be able to
I would say
pluck the right stuff from the community?
Yeah, I mean we know where the priorities are, and we can kind of see where the community is sitting, and we talk to Ratati and Lajibro excessively, probably more with them than I thought I would necessarily be. They're people probably don't realize just how 7 days a week their commitment to the game really is.
Okay, I mean that's pretty cool, man. Now I'm just kind of curious, but and fully acknowledging that you may or may not be able to say anything about it, but there was a lot of discussion prior to the election that there were some caveats put in there by CCP that it was a Dust-focused CPM, and there was like this assumption that over time there would be more interaction reference Legion. Is that would you say that is more or less accurate, or do you see the role changing?
I would say that I think when we're needed on the topic, we're included on it. But the job has primarily been focused on Dust. We know where Legion is, but it's really been how do we keep improving on Dust on the steps that have already been taken since Rattati took over. To really push this as a longer term game than some people may think that it's meant to have.
Okay. All right.
Because
That's
I do
pretty
think
fair.
there is a lot of life in it that people don't realize.
Well, I think there's going to be as much life as there's going to be life in the PS3, right?
Well, and there was some the PS2 is still a heavily used console. I mean,
Where?
all over the place. It's just not, I mean, they're not making new games for it. But
Well, yeah, no, I'm with you. But when you say the PS2 is still in heavy use, is that like overseas?
I'm trying to remember when's the last time I saw a particular story about the PS2, but like from my recollection, like they stopped selling it in some places only a couple years ago. I mean, a lot of people talk, oh, the PS4, but that's a $400 console that a lot of people haven't bought.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll be interested to see what that looks like come around Christmas time, though.
Yeah, well, that's part of it, but another part is the price drop because I got, when I got my PS3 for Dust, it was $250.
Oh yeah,
It's,
yeah, no
and
doubt.
it was released at 700.
Jeez, I had no idea. Like I got mine for way under that. Okay.
Yeah, no, when
Forgot
it
about
was
that
released,
too.
it was a $700 device.
What was that, Ripper?
Yeah, I forgot about that too, and I got mine for like 300.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things. People, it's nice to say, oh well, you should support the latest thing that's $400. But to be honest, there's a reason that games do well if they have lower specifications.
Yeah, man. No, that's absolutely correct. I think probably the one thing I'd add to that is not so much of a counterpoint, but like an addendum that works really well. But expecting people to hang on to the PS3 for a single game I think, would be a pretty naive strategy on from a business model standpoint. I mean, it's really not a viable option over time. And now I could see if there's a thought that it would migrate to to certain other global markets and stuff like that, because a lot of gaming systems or games in general will do that. They'll migrate around to different parts of Asia and South America in particular. Over once they hit a certain shelf life, and I could actually kind of see some of that happening with Dust, but I don't know. It's just me. I'm just kind of curious, because I generally tie the life of Dust directly to if not necessarily the lifespan of the PS3 in terms of a viable global sales platform for Sony, but more along the lines of when is it just not worth having a PS3 solely for the purpose of playing what is effectively an Uber beta for a different game that may or may not be greenlit.
Well, I mean, it's I don't see it as just a beta for Legion. It really shouldn't be thought of that way. There is a lot more players playing this game than it's doing in my view it's doing fine. It comes down to and if people are gonna say, well, the game's not good enough for me to keep my PS3 because I want the $50 you'll get for it at GameStop, might be 75. That just means the game isn't good enough. But
No, well, I think that to me the bigger point is like the three of us, we have in this room, we've been playing Dust for a pretty long time, and I mean the reality is there's nothing new going to happen in this game. Tweaking some rifles and some vehicles here and there which frankly needed to be done, and I think they're doing a pretty solid job at. That's really not going to cut it over time. The graphics aren't going to get better. Gameplays, like game mechanics in general, like the game world itself, the social functions, the games. It is what it is. It's basically plateaued, other than like some minor tweaks that they can do right now. And again, they're doing a great job at it, but effectively, what you got right now is what you got, period. So I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, but the reality is that time marches on, and then as other games are populated out there, people are going to be interested in those, and the simple fact is, over time, a lot more people will migrate over to the next gen consoles, or really the current gen consoles, and that's just how it works. I mean, the PS4 has been out for almost a year now, right?
Sure, but I mean, there's plenty of games that do outlive past their active development life cycle. There's tons of games
Oh,
that
you're
are
right.
still
You're
play.
right.
People still play. People still go back and play. Quake 3, and I think there's still people who run tournaments based off of it. It doesn't, and I don't think development is ended per se. I think there's a lot of things you can play with, and there's a lot of things that are left on the list to be done. But first and foremost was getting some common sense into the balance.
Sure. No, I mean, I'm like I said, I don't disagree with you, Zell. All I'm doing is I'm just pointing out that while Dust is as good as it has probably ever been, it is what it is right now, and that's what it's going to be until Dust is no more. Whenever that is. And I think I don't think that's evil, and I don't think and that's certainly not saying that Dust is dying or any of that other jazz. I mean, that's a simple fact. It is what it is. And if it was going to be anything more, I think we all realized that, Sony would have taken, or correction, CCP would have taken a vastly different tact, as opposed to putting, two very motivated and, emotionally and mentally involved guys like Lajibro and Rattati, and like basically made them the point men for it. But then everybody else like walked away to work on a different game, which may or may not ever see the light of day. But that, like I said, it's not evil. I mean, the game is, as you pointed out, doing quite well. Now that's a relative term. It's still a very, very small market share in its style of FPS play, but it's doing pretty good, and it is still a lot of fun to play. I mean, I don't think anybody would challenge. Well, I'm sure there's people that challenge that, but me personally, I think it's still fun to play. But it's just, I think it's one of those where there's a reality that it's stagnant is not the word I'm looking for, but it's definitely plateaued. Does that kind of make sense?
Well, what would you say is plateaued?
Okay, I'm never going to see more than 16 people on a side. I'm not going to see any more new maps. High probability I will not see any in-game assets that are that's new content. I'm not going to see any of the functions that were, even the baseline functions such as player trading and things like that are kind of a staple for most socially oriented games of any stripe. I think what we have, literally the framework of what we have, is what we have, and we can work to make it better, and we can continue to polish it and work out the friction points on it. But I think what you have right now is what you got.
Well, I mean, if you look at what can be done for the first part in the hot fixes, there's quite a bit that I think could be done in terms of creating new variants and stuff like that can liven up the variety of things more than we have now. But the other thing is they are developing assets for Legion, and I don't think it's inconceivable that they could be that we could get some of those things brought back. They're both games are supposed to run on the same game engine, so it shouldn't be inconceivably difficult. But it comes down to how well Dust is actually performing at that time, and if it's worth the resources, because it does come back down to the fact that they're a business, and they're going to make decisions based on what they have to work with.
All right. No, I think that's fair, man. So I got to ask a question then. What do you think is going to happen first? We'll get a new asset in game, like, let's say, I don't know, a new style of drop suit or a new weapon or something like that we haven't seen before, or CCP Rouge actually speaks to the community. Which one happens first?
I have no idea.
And that's my point. Hey, looks like we got another guest dropped in. Iron Wolf, why don't you give everybody a quick intro, man?
Hello, I'm Saber, CPM1 council member and generalized gamer today.
Good deal. Hey, so we've just been we were kicking around the idea that Zell did his he had a very in-depth CPM update. I was kind of surprised at how much information he was able to put out. I mean, it's probably one of the most it was honestly one of the most informative CPM1 updates that I think that I've heard since we've been doing this.
Going heavily with the trolling, huh?
Oh, come on. That's not trolling, baby. No, it was pretty good. I mean, we're just jousting around a little bit. Since it's a slow week, so everybody's poking a little bit. It's all good stuff. We're really glad you could join us tonight, though, man.
I don't know if you gotta wait till you hear the intro he gave.
No, I tell you, man, we could do this all in wrestling promo voice. It would be awesome. I assure you, it'd be good stuff. We'll have to do that one night.
Let's get ready to rumble.
No. So you gotta get some more heart into it. You gotta get more heart into it.
Yeah, my mic can't pick up louder than that.
If you're gonna criticize, you better deliver on something better.
Oh, really? Okay. Hang on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, CCP proudly brings to you the reigning undisputed heavyweight champion of the Dust Podcast World, Biomassed. All right, how's that?
That was great.
If I could clap with one hand, I'll do it right now. Let me try.
I'm telling you, man. Like when I was growing up, I solidly wanted to be on either. I really wasn't a WWF fan, but I was a huge WCW fan, so I'd really want to lean more towards the WCW, or I could be a college, football coach. Either one of those two, I'd have been perfectly happy. So basically, I failed at every goal I set in life, and now I'm talking to you guys on a podcast about a video game that nobody knows about. So it's fucking awesome.
Had to give you mad props. That was probably better than anything I've ever done.
Yeah, it's no drama, man. We'll have to lead that one off of the show next time. Oh, shoot. So all joking aside, well, not even all joking aside, but generally, what have you guys been doing in game for the last couple of weeks? Anything interesting or anything you want people to be aware of or make sure that folks are tracking? I know we had some notes about officer weapons come out, and I think the sidearm challenge went over pretty well. So what do you guys think?
Just keep enjoying the bolt pistol until we nerf the crud out of it.
Yeah, the Booyah pistol, that thing's no joke, man. Like absolutely.
Well, I do want to bring one point up, but I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, John.
Well, as you were saying earlier, that Dust has reached a plateau. Much of the development team is working on another game, and they have a very small dev team that's just working on Dust. They're not adding new things, but just modifying code to balance stuff, just like those are hot fixes as we've seen. There are a lot of games that have they let players mod certain things. I'm not saying to put this game as open source, but make it partial so maybe someone else could help contribute. There's plenty of people that know 3D modeling. I know it, for example, and we could outsource for help for other people to help the developers. And all they got to do is either approve or disapprove changes or additions to this game.
That is a pretty interesting take. I know exactly what you're talking about. A lot of people, used Unreal for a long time. They can mod a lot of different stuff with it. And there were some really, really good mods out there, particularly for Unreal Tournament. And I could totally see that being, that would be a really interesting and viable way if you really wanted to inject a collaborative, positive relationship with the community and CCP. Now, I've never heard of that being done for a console game. I'm very familiar with PC games. Have they ever done anything like that or has anybody ever done anything like that with a console game?
If it had been done through a console game, it would have been done through the company holding a contest of sorts, like submit us your best models. The closest I've seen this happen in a regular game would be Saints Row, where players were asked to submit costume designs, and 2 of them had been brought into a pack. One was like some sort of fishbowl thing, and the other guy was a pizza delivery costume.
No, I mean, I actually like John's idea a lot. I mean, that's one of the things that the community around Eve is known for. I mean, the amount of third-party apps, software, websites that are in direct support of and actually augment the gameplay on the Eve side is pretty staggering. If you don't, those of you that play Eve know what I'm talking about. Those of you that don't, trust me, there are more helper apps, websites, programs, and spreadsheets than you can shake a stick at. But that would be an interesting way to do that, John. I kind of like where your head's at on that one. I think you would end up with it's like it's a crowdsourcing, which is not something a lot of active game development shops do. There's a lot of people trying to do crowdfunding, but I think it'd be kind of interesting from a Dust standpoint, like let people run it for a couple 3 months or something like that, and then everybody submits. You can submit your stuff in whatever format, digital format. Let them review it, and then if it's something that they can plug into the game or modify quickly and get into the game, that might actually be a pretty cool way to approach this.
I think that there's there's been a lot of suggestions from different people, like, can you Kickstarter a client patch or something like that. I've before supported threads suggesting, just releasing some of the game assets completely still under copyright, but just so that people could create, third-party tools and applications using a bit more game resource type of stuff. And I didn't see a whole lot of traction on those sort of things. I get the impression that something like that would be a really hard sell. Especially because of the sort of optimization issues that are involved with serving content to a PS3.
Yeah, because they're kicking ass and taking names and developing the game right now, aren't they?
Well, but I mean, the point is that adding, I think it would be pretty difficult to expect the player base to be able to create content that would fit all of the guidelines for CCP's customizations they've made to their engine, and also be optimized enough to run well on the PS3 and in Dust and stuff like that. Especially since players don't have access to the test hardware.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, it's a fair statement. I think John's idea was actually pretty novel in its approach, and at a minimum, here's the thing: it would be really cool if there was a more of a feel of a collaborative relationship about what's going on. I mean, I like I said, I think Rattati right now he's not quite a one-man band, but he's pretty damn close to it in terms of the ability to touch the community and do things. Reference Dust, and now a whole separate kind of ugly topic is what's going on with Legion. We can probably talk about that later, but like I said, I think the suggestion of how do you crowdsource different things for Dust is probably a very viable thought. Now, there's very likely going to be some technical challenges, as you pointed out, but I think that's an approach that is well worth the time to at least explore. So let's see. Anybody got any cool stories or emergent gameplay, if you will, they've been exploring in Dust for the last week or two?
I haven't been playing Dust, but I've been exploring the Eve API, messing around with it.
Oh, that's always
yeah?
fun.
What are you working on, John?
I'm just learning the REST API, just trying different things. I tested like a server check, like the Eve offline site. And I've noticed that you said there's a lot of tools for Eve, and I agree with you. I've been playing Eve, and I've been asking people for examples. But one thing I've noticed is there's a lack of tools for mobile phones, and that's something I'm interested in.
Yeah, there's you're actually spot on. There's two. Like there's a lot of tools. There's two areas where I think people aren't taking advantage of, and one's definitely mobile. Mac client stuff is getting better, but on the mobile, they've got
Nobody cares
basically.
about Macs.
I'm just gonna pretend he didn't say that. So in the mobile arena, there's really about two, maybe three. There's really two well-known app products. One's called Neocom. It is not an official product, but it sure as hell looks like it's incredibly well done from a mobile side. That's probably the most useful one that I've seen. You can basically tap into all your EveGate stuff, and you can throw your skill
iOS
queue
app.
on. Yeah, it is. It's an I'm sorry, it's an iOS app.
And for Android, the Aura is the big one.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one. Now,
The one
generally,
for the
I think that would
real
be
mobile platform.
yeah, whatever. I think it would be pretty cool if somebody explored a little bit more in terms of what you could do from a mobile standpoint, like a fitting tool, things like that you can play around with. But I think that's definitely a market that's open.
Exactly, and you'll be able to do Eve side on the go.
I mean, the big thing to me is the inability to actually send mail, and that's a matter of them getting Crest, working.
It's definitely getting better. I mean, if you have a mobile device and you can pull in an app that's drawn API, it's just easy enough to tap onto your Eve mail, just to go through the Eve gate.
I was working on those tools. I had told Soraya about them, but after FanFest, I just lost all motivation for it, to be honest. I had tools for like a dust charts, but for mobile, and it would have notifications if you were attacked. So you don't got to go online every single day to check if you have a fight or a match.
See, that'd be
You'll
cool.
just be notified.
Yeah, that'd be really nice.
Yeah, like a dust timers thing, that would be
Because
good.
I mean, I wrote like I don't know, John, if you've seen it. Is I wrote a fairly simple one. It was one of the first ones when they released the districts endpoint. But that I never went as far as Dust Charts did in UI, or Stuff 514 did.
Same here.
Stuff 514 did way better than Dust Charts in actual information, like useful information. Dust Charts, though, it became really popular because it had that pretty pie chart thing to look at. But
I think if you
it went above and beyond.
I had so many issues. There are so many things that I did not like, as far as choices that the developer of Dust Charts made, and I did mail him about them, but he never he went on to other projects and hasn't really been maintaining that site. But it refers to alliances with a high tax rate as the greediest alliances, which is hilarious because, of course, it's the alliances that are squatting on 50 districts that don't need a tax rate, and they're not the greediest. Stuff like that. The fact that an alliance like an alliance would be referred to as the most bullied alliance because it had the most districts under attack. Well, no, it's got the most districts under attack because it has 99% of the districts. Stuff like that. That was just I think he tried to put too much emotion into the descriptions, which weren't really accurate given the situations of the game. So that kind of bothered me. But the thing that Stuff 514 did really well was they were monitoring close enough on what times things were announced, that when you got attacked, usually a website can't tell you who attacked. And Stuff 514 would say, well, you know what, this other district that we were monitoring went down in clones at about the same time, so you probably got attacked by these guys or a clone pack. And that was something you couldn't get on any other website that was tracking districts.
Yeah, I mean that's actually pretty good stuff. I mean, you if you could do little things like replicate what they did on like Dust Thing or Proto Fits, even stuff like that would be like a really, really handy add-on into like an all-in-one product that you could have. Let's see. For the last week or two, at least for me, I've really honestly had limited game time, probably only like an hour or two a week, at least on Dust. So I'm probably not the best guy for keeping up with current events. I will say this though, as we joked about a little bit earlier, I had a lot of fun messing around with the bolt pistol. And it's definitely the Space Magnum. I'm digging it. So I'll hang on to that one at least for another few weeks. And I guess, other than that, I've just been putting a lot of like one level one into different stuff, just messing around with things I've never tried, like different weapons and stuff. It's one of those where if you've played long enough, there's only so much that you can do to really jazz things up or change things. I am still enjoying running around in the Cal heavy role right now. I'll probably put a little bit more points in the commando here pretty soon. And actually the one thing I really do want to try is the plasma cannon. Pokey's really got me. He's really got me going on the plasma cannon now. So I'll probably drop a bunch of SP into that next. Let's see, probably tomorrow. So other than that, I think that's about all I've got going on. How about you, Zell? Anything?
Oh, not much. It's been a fun RL week. So.
Oh no, I can totally understand that, man. Destiny getting you down?
No, I don't give a crap about Destiny. No, I've been trying to get a little bit more time in actually giving attention to my pets. So, rather than just lying around here.
Okay, all right, man, that's fair enough.
We've been doing small. I've actually started doing I take my ferret over to my parents' house so that he can play with the other ferrets and stuff like that. And it's been my.
Hey, I think my headset was messing up. Could you say that again?
Oh, I was saying I take my pet ferret over to my parents' place and let it play around with the other ferrets because they have a few as well, and just try and give them a bit more attention.
No, my mic wasn't messed up. I just couldn't believe you actually said those words out loud.
Ouch.
I'm over here looking at my half German Shepherd, half Pit Bull that the people in the neighborhood affectionately refer to as Pac-Man, and I'm thinking of your ferrets.
How so? I'm just curious now.
Well, I do need to get him some more toys, so. Unfortunately, that's how it works. But
am I making you feel bad about your pet care?
No. Well, a little bit. I was like, yeah, I feel bad because he's sitting here just staring at me. He's like, "What are you doing? You're talking to a computer screen. What the hell?" I was like, "All right, sorry, man."
Yeah, well, see, the ferret's asleep right now, but that's because I had him running around over there for an hour and a half.
So between you and Zatara, you get something about these. Like he had those little like Bichon Frises or whatever the hell he's got, just eating his ass up the other week. Now you've got like sleeping weasels. That's your new dust name, Sleeping Weasel. You need to start an alt with that.
Hey, my pets don't make noise when I'm recording a podcast.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, no, I mean that's fair enough, man.
Or in meetings. Ouch. That was a low blow. He's not here to defend himself.
But it's
he does
still
try to
fun.
manage them at least.
I'm telling you, man, those dogs are OP. Straight up.
He wants to end a conversation topic. He just has the dog start barking.
Yeah, no, that's about right. So we'll, unless anybody's got anything else about like stuff they've been doing in game, I did want to. We kind of talked a little bit about it when we first kind of kicked it off, sort of truly by accident. And I was kind of, I was listening to the podcast from last week, and I heard Pokey kind of, he went into, his sort of Dennis Hopper rant on what's going on with Legion and why isn't anybody talking to us? And I'm driving the Jeep around. I'm running like 1,001 errands all over like Seattle and different parts of the Olympics for the last 2 or 3 days, and I'm listening to this, and I'm like, yeah, right on, man. Power to the people, man. Like they get their boot on our necks. God, we got to get some information here. And you get really upset about it. It's like, but it's a good sign. It's in a weird way, it's a sign because we've all connected with the game, and really more to the point with the community. We've become part of a gaming community that's centered around this game, and I kind of laughed about it. But Pokey's right. I did want to just at least put that out there and kind of kick the idea around with you guys for a minute. Like, what is at least for you guys, and it's a personal question, but that everybody has to ask themselves. But at what point do you get the does the average player who may not have access to like the level of insider information that the CPM has, like where would be a logical or I guess expected point that they get to when they're like, look, I'm just tired of messing around with this. I'm just, somebody call me if you ever, have Legion, you put anything out on the street and just walk away from the CCP Shanghai, properties. Like, where do you think guys get to that point at? Is it now? Like a lot of guys that were here pre-FanFest. Because I certainly see it coming that you're not going to have a mass exodus, but anybody that has been around this game for more than 6 months, they start to very quickly figure out that, that's why I guess I was saying earlier that I think we plateaued. That really the next big thing needs to be somebody saying something about Legion. What's your thoughts on that?
My general thoughts is that maybe other companies have done the research already, and they've come to find out this is probably around a month and a half to 2 month cycles. I see a lot of point one conversion patch content patches being based around this for a lot of MMOs, and they, like I said, they probably have put a lot of money into this to figuring this out or learn the hard way. So that'll be my gander on for the average player. So most folks we have now are people who are coming back because of the hotfixes and teetering in and out, or most of those are just really hardcore players right now. But players who are joining us, they got about maybe 2 months before they start cycling out because there's nothing seemingly happening from their point of view. And so many of the players do just blow right through the. They don't go to the forums. They don't follow Twitter. They don't watch you. They don't go to Facebook, and they definitely don't read the patch notes at the start.
That's a fair statement. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. I think it's, I look at it from the viewpoint of a veteran that's been playing for, almost 2 years or right at 2 years, and you're trying to figure out what's the, like, there's not much in the game right now for me. It is, and probably a lot of guys in our sort of age bracket in Dust.
One advantage that does have though, it is a free to play game, so there is no remorse in leaving the game, and there's a little excuse to not try it again later on because it's not going to cost you a dime to like pop back in and say hi, play a couple of games, figure out where the state of the game is, and hop back out if it's still not in a state you would like.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, and I do think that the patches or hotfixes they've been putting out, I would suspect that a whole lot of people do actually log in, download it, and at least kind of play a few matches to see if it just feels different, that kind of thing. So from that aspect, it's good, but I don't think it's really difficult to generate like that consistent level of commitment that you had a lot of the veterans back when you had a really solid PC, and then faction warfare looked like it was actually going to be a thing.
And it's not an easy thing to do in the game industry. I mean, you look at World of Warcraft; they had over 300 developers at once. They have lots of developers still, and they still managed to cut 200 people out of their studio, and they're still developing for World of Warcraft. I mean, it's insane. And the fact is, despite the monumental budgets, the efforts, the all the new exciting content patches, they still cannot retain the players. They're still constantly losing about 1 million players a year.
Well, I didn't know that. I mean, I've never really messed around with WoW. I mean, I know it's relatively speaking to anything that CCP puts out, including Eve, it's a very large chunk of the MMO market share.
It is, and that's why there's so many goddamn clones of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty fair.
But they hit the nail on the head on one thing, which was accessibility. I mean, if you've tried the original EverQuest, it was not something easy to get into. And it scared a lot of players. It scared a lot of potential customers away. World of Warcraft just made it easy for everybody. It almost casualized the genre, but it made it appealing to the mass market as well.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my general thoughts right now, it's I kind of previewed it a little bit earlier, and believe me, guys, when I say this, I'm definitely not. I'm not doing my King Sparrow imitation where, like the sky is falling and I told you all. It's literally like I look at it as a customer who's actually coughed up real money for a free to play game. for a long time, and I've really thoroughly enjoyed playing it, and I thoroughly enjoy being a part of the community and the like the social and the meta functions in Dust, just like I do in Eve, by the way. But the reality is, I'm kind of at the point where Pokey was last week, which is I got Dust. I know what Dust is. Dust is Dust. That's what I'm saying. It's not going to be anything more to me than what it is right now, because the odds of something actually new occurring in the game is exceedingly low. And what is I've found incredibly frustrating is, there was a lot of hype about CCP Rouge taking over as the executive producer prior to FanFest, and the CPM 0, of which Iron Wolf was a part of, carried a lot of water for him on the forums. You'd also see blue tags and, oh, this guy's awesome, this guy's great, he's doing this, he's going to do that. FanFest was kind of a debacle. I got that, but when you move on,
kind of a debacle is that's a whitewash piece right
well,
there.
yeah, I mean, let's be real. It was a grease fire. I don't think anybody doesn't think it wasn't. I mean, and then for about a week and a half, about 2 weeks, you actually saw engagement with the community, like about Legion, and there hasn't been a peep for months now. We haven't heard from anybody outside of Rattati and occasionally Logibro in his new role as part of the consolidated CCP community team. So I'm kind of in the mode, at least as far as CCP Shanghai goes, that I kind of have to vote on the actions and the communications I see or I don't see. Right now, they're not acting because they're certainly not talking about it. So I'm trying to figure out, why should I support their activities any longer? Because I don't think that they're supporting me as a paying customer, if that makes sense.
I'll speak frankly as a former CPM 0 who's had experience with the first EP and with the current EP. I won't go into anything NDA about this, so don't expect any juicy details of what CCP Rouge has been up to. But in comparison to the previous EP, CCP Rouge is still a night and day difference. We're still CPM 1 is still has a fairly good idea of what he's doing, and the things he's doing, I wish I could tell everybody, but it's just something that we cannot share. It will have to be up to CCP to share this. And a lot of these things will not concern the average player, but they will concern the community who are really concerned who are really interested in Legion and Dust's future. And like I said, it will be truly up to CCP to actually come out and communicate all the things that CCP Rouge has to deal with as EP of this product, of both products.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair. But, I would also say that right now they're literally in the process of like shooting their own foot like every day that they don't talk to people. Because I play Eve a lot, and I can go onto the Eve forums and you see like a raft of dev posts, like from different people. You see blogs, you see Twitch streams, you see engagement with the community on probably an all-time high. Like, I haven't seen them do this in years, like the level of engagement they have with the community. They go on podcasts like every other week. We've got dev guys going out on that shit. There's a lot of things going on right now where they're taking such a proactive stance on the Eve side, and then on the Dust Legion side, it's total stealth mode, and it's really frustrating. And we've talked about on the show before is, I can go to any number of other games that are that are probably going for the same style of player base that Legion would go for, that are in development, and their level of engagement is dramatically higher than anything coming out of Shanghai right now. So they might be literally making the Jesus game back there, for all I know. But the reality is, like, they're not saying anything. They're basically ignoring us. And I'm certainly not going to, channel my inner Pyrex and go full tinfoil hat. But like, you have to understand, again, people that don't have anywhere near the same access or or engagement that the that the handful of people on the CPM have. As far as if I didn't know you guys and didn't talk to you on a regular basis about it, I would pretty much come to the conclusion that CCP has definitely written off Dust, and they're using it as the trickle stream of cash. It makes me wonder how many people that play Dust actually know there's a thing called Legion. That's how much they don't talk about it.
Unfortunately, that's the problem when you're having a game versus a project. And I'm pretty sure there's people out there who's like, what's the difference? And it's like, because the finicky thing about projects is that anything can happen. It can change on a 180. I mean, if you actually followed any projects, even unannounced ones, I'll point to Blizzard's Titan MMO again. There was a couple of times they just deleted everything and started over.
Yep.
While they've never gone into the details of the game itself, they have stated that's why it's taken so long for Titan to actually have any sort of details of what it was, because Blizzard themselves could not find what sort of game they wanted to make.
Well, I think it'd be fair to say that they probably know what kind of game they want to make with Legion, right? To call Dust a failed game is not inaccurate, but it's also not the whole truth. It was able to deliver what it was able to deliver based on the design studio and the hardware it had available to work with. But what they originally set out in terms of the vision and what they claimed that they were going to have in Dust, if you use that at least as the baseline start point for what Legion could/should be, you probably have a pretty good idea of what you want the game to be, unless they're radically changing it. And at that point, you kind of need to tell the community that anyway. So again, they might be doing some great stuff behind closed doors, but
in fairness,
it is not helping them.
They specifically said that Legion was, a new game, which indicates at least some desire to change things from the status quo.
Right, and the video they showed us was 100% exactly right off Dust.
Yeah, that it was, and my personal inclination is that the notion that they even uttered Legion at FanFest was a horrible mistake.
Oh yeah, no, and don't get me wrong, like they literally might be making some incredible stuff, but the approach that they're taking with the community that wants to do nothing but help them, or at least be at least try to be a collaborative part of the design process, which is becoming much more of a thing nowadays in terms of game development. I mean, this is the kind of thing that makes you really scratch your head about how they're handling this.
Unfortunately, we can't do anything more about it on the Legion side until it starts becoming a game. For now, we got Dust 514 and CCP Vertati, who's very open to this process. He's spearheading it fairly well, and he's taken lots of suggestions from players, lots of feedback, lots of data, and he's trying to deliver on a lot of it as much as he could with the lot of resources he has.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that. I guess it's one of those things. If you play the same game that doesn't change for the better part of 2 years, you get kind of tired of it, or at least, even though it's fun to play with your friends, you get more out of playing with your friends than you do playing the game, which is not a bad thing. And then Legion is really the next thing you have to look for, or if there were more iterations, like client-side iterations that were coming out for Dust, there's something that would prevent that plateau or stagnation, which again is very relative based on the player you're talking about, and I freely admit that. But I remember at one point there was some questions coming around about like, hey, how do we get veteran players back in the back playing the game? Well, a lot of folks gave that feedback, but I don't think there's anything that CCP can do to bring those veteran players back right now.
Well, there's nothing they can do directly to get these players back, but I have been seeing posts I've been seeing almost on a daily basis these days are veteran players coming back. They're trying the game out after months of absences, and they're actually enjoying the game for once. Of course, there have been some players that came back and like first things out of it, I was like, nothing's changed, and they left around 1.4 earlier.
Yeah, and a lot of it is it's relative to what you play and what you do. Like what's your style of gameplay, that kind of thing. Like I said, Dust is a lot of fun, and it's particularly a lot of fun when you're playing with your friends. But it is, it's not going to be what I think most of us got into the game under the impression that it's not going to be what we were told it's going to be, and no emotion in that. It's just that's a fact. And the thing that they're touting is going to be that. And I remember distinctly CPM Zero guys that were saying, hey, I know it came out poorly at FanFest, it came out horribly at FanFest, but they're literally everything you guys have ever asked for. That's what they're trying to put in this game, in Legion. And and like I said, for a brief minute, they were trying to engage the community a little bit. So it makes me wonder, did they not like it? So CCBZ, when I don't even know the guy's still there or not. Because but my point is we haven't heard from him in how long? Like they talked to the community about Legion for literally a minute, and that one forum area blew up when people were trying to like figure out what was going on or give feedback or see what the new game was going to be. And you had a lot of people that were more than willing to actually do their own homework, kind of like what John was talking about. Like there's people in our community, unlike a lot of other games, that would put their own time into offering like real actual homework, design homework for people to try to make the game better. I mean, and then they shut all that off like a faucet going off. So, I have to judge them off of what they do and what they say. What they say is not much. What they do is, again, nothing that we can see or interact with. So, I mean, like I said, not trying to sound like a Debbie Downer, but it's just, and I truly hope that Legion comes out and it kicks ass, and I really hope it does. But right now, as you guys pointed out, it's not even a game. It's a thing, but it's not a game yet. And Dust is a lot of fun, but it's it is not going to get much better. We can put some new paint jobs on it and maybe change the tires occasionally, but what you get is what you get right now.
Well, my idea is that it doesn't have to be this way. Things could change. Things could be different. It's just it'll depend. There will be obstacles, but the player base, the I think most people agree that the community is the best part of Dust. The the communication, being able to be in 16 player games in PC, talking to every single person, and just being everyone being focused on the game, like it just gets you so into it because everyone else is so into it, and you're all working together. It's very unique. I have never seen another first-person shooter work like Dust, and I don't want to see it fail, and I would like Legion to work the same way. But that doesn't mean that Dust has to die because Legion is coming out. No, the PS3, the PS4 can come out, but the PS3 still have many more years ahead of it because there are still a lot of people that are slow to switching to new consoles, waiting for prices drop or etc. I am more of a developer than a gamer, actually, so I can't give a lot of input on like
The question
gaming and
is,
shit.
are you
Or
more of a
develop.
forum troll than you are a developer?
I am both. I am usually forum trolling when I am compiling.
That excuse. Yeah, no, I would be working, but my code's compiling.
Yeah, that's my excuse.
No, John, you got a really good point, and I agree. It doesn't have to be the way it is now, but I think, and I'm actually really intrigued by your idea, by the way. Like how do you like if they would engage the community? I think they would be very pleasantly surprised with what they would get back. But I think that also requires a significant mental shift and a step forward for what for how CCP is currently functioning, or at least CCP Shanghai is currently functioning.
Yeah, well, I doubt this will be up to CCP Ratati, who's in charge. I think it will be up to someone higher up than him. But I would like that higher up to know about this idea and to at least consider it. Because even, like, I know I'm a developer, but I know I'm not the only developer that plays Dust. So I
Good
have
point.
experience in Java, C++, C. I could do 3D modeling in 3D Max, Maya, and Blender. I don't know what they use, but if they give me this information, I could create things. And even if people do not have those skills, let's say some guy's an artist, a drawer. Well, if they just tell him how to draw it, like if you're making 3D art, yes, they have concept art, but usually this concept art is a picture of the side, the back, the front at an angle, and they put it all together in a grid, and they just pulling out vertices just to make the shape. Like even artists could help other people that do have this ability to create new weapons and stuff like that. So I just think that if this game has reached a plateau, then and a lot of people share the feelings that it will end, that there's nothing more to it. Well, why not give us the ability to change things, improve things, and make things better for the everyone in the game? And it will take a lot of workload off of CCP developers. For all they have to do is just approve or disapprove things and make minor modifications to our ideas and what we could contribute. I would love to create stuff for Dust. I really would love to. I'm
I,
I'm 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 not a pro, but with all the practice, I think I would. I would have the motivation to do a lot more if I could.
well, I think, and I think what you're, and this is this is seriously one of the reasons I was actually really glad you were able to come on tonight, John. When I hear you say that, that's like literally, that's the thing that separates Dust from every other first-person shooter I've ever played is like the community around the game that that is stronger than the game, because a lot of things, like Call of Duty, Battlefield, and all that stuff, those are kind of like 2 hour shoot 'em up action movie events that you can sit down and play for a minute, and it's one and done. There's no, you don't get like this, feeling that you're greater than the sum of your parts when you have a bunch of your friends playing and you're coordinating on something as simple as a strategy for the meta, or you're actually in the middle of a PC or a FAC war match or something like that. Like you don't get that anywhere else, nor do you get the out of game engagement like you get in Dust or even in Eve. I mean, that's CCP. If again, I've said it many times, if they do anything well, they figure out a way to attract the type of players that will build around their game and actually make their game stronger. And I think you said it right, man. I think what is frustrating, veteran players is that we want the opportunity to help the game. We want to help make things better because we're invested, in each other. Like players I've never met, like dudes I might have, shot on the battlefield or exchanged posts with. Like I'm invested in trying to help making their gaming experience better, just like I want to make it better for me. I want to make the community, the gaming community stronger, because I've met some great people playing this game, and that's kind of where I'm coming from on it. You've got a population of people that want to help, but nobody's answering the door. We're knocking and ringing the doorbell to try to see if we can help, and nobody's coming to the table. But you can look around the neighborhood and you see a lot of other houses with people throwing the doors open and going, "Hey, come on in, let's talk." That's literally the feeling I'm getting right now.
If I have one thing to say to CCP higher ups, is the game has potential. Like the game has been through a lot. The player base has been butthurt and cried about a lot of shit. But excuse my language. But it's just it has potential because of what the game is, the essence of the game, what people love about the game. It's still there. It hasn't changed. Yes, there are balancing problems and problems here or there, but that's not the point. We're still here because there is something still attracting us to this game, something that we still love, and that's the community. So I hope CCP realizes this, because the community is really strong and tight together. The corps, everyone's real close friends. It's a really social game. And I just hope CCP could join in on this and not be so quiet about some details and be more open about what they are doing, what they're implementing, and let us help them, not just through ideas and forum posts that people feel might be ignored, but give us more power to propel this game forward to last much longer, to attract more players, to make us feel a lot of vets could come back if they felt like there's a lot more development coming to this game.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you, man. I remember. I think something struck me when you were just talking there is like, they're working, like Rattati works very hard on balancing the mechanics in the game. And like I said, I'm hands down, I'm a fan. I think he's doing a great job. He and Logibro have probably done more in, 2.5 months, 3 months than I saw in the first year of Dust development in terms of, trying to get things right. And actually delivering. So hats off to him big time. But it's kind of interesting is that the biggest strength about any of these games that they've got, like Dust being one, is really the players who make up the base, like who is the player base. And if they could figure out a way to help the player base like they've been helping, plasma rifle mechanics, man, that would be, they could have a powerful combination on their hands that would reinvigorate a lot of stuff, and it would help both the Dust and Legion. I mean, if they're truly separate, separate games, which I think it's a little bit of folly to say that they're totally separate games, but it would help both of those enterprises, I think. So, no, I think you're spot on with that, John. So we'll kind of move on from the what the frack CCP segment, and we'll kind of move on into something a little bit different. I was just kind of curious, and this is going to be totally off topic, by the way. Has nothing to do with Dust, unless anybody has anything to pitch on it. I'm curious. Total pop culture reach out here. Anybody got any movies, TV shows, or anything like that they're really fired up to watch, see, read, or whatever? Anybody? Iron Wolf, you can go first.
I want to
see you
give
raising your hand.
I want to give Alien Isolation a go, maybe a rent at least.
That thing looks pretty legit.
It harkens back to the very first Alien movie, which was the only horror movie from back then that still scares me today, because most of those horror movies back then, I look at them today and they're like comedies.
No, I think it looks pretty good. How about you, Zell?
Well, you see, my first console game that I played was a Legend of Zelda title, and so that's always been kind of my go-to. And so I have in my hand right now, in fact, and I haven't actually tried it yet, is I have Hyrule Warriors, which is not a conventional Zelda game. It's actually a Zelda-branded Dynasty Warriors game, which I've never played that either. So, I'm looking forward to opening it and trying it, but I haven't really found the time to break out the Wii U yet.
Okay, no, that's pretty cool. John, how about you, man? And he's compiling code. For me, I've got a buddy of mine from Agony Unleashed on the East Side. He's been really pumping up Shadows of Mordor. So I'm gonna have to give that a go.
I've heard about that one in the online to-dos lately.
Yeah, he is highly positive about it. He said basically if you took kind of the whole Lord of the Rings sort of IP, sort of that whole world and the lore that's associated with it, says it's captured extremely well. So the backdrop of the game is known. It's a really, really well captured captured game, but you have a baseline like an Assassin's Creed style game, but with Arkham Asylum kind of combat mechanics. He says it works extremely well. He's like, basically there's nothing really, really like earth shaking about what they've done. And he said you could probably find good sampling. That's why it's easy for him to describe. It's like you take Lord of the Rings and you figure out how to take Assassin's Creed and Arkham Asylum, and maybe a little bit of BioShock, and you put it together in a way that works. And he said that's basically the game. And I'm pretty keen to try it out. And as for something to watch, I will have to give a plug out to the DC TV universe. I was a big fan of the Arrow, or still am. Saw the
Yep.
Flash premiere.
Yep, watched that too.
Thing's pretty damn good. It's
Definitely not bad.
very well done. Very well done.
I mean, it is like the only downside to me is it does feel very Smallville, very back to the basics. The same to do that caused the hero also will cause the Freak of the Week villains.
Sure. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I will have to say though is they did it again really well.
Oh yeah, it was well done, no doubt.
Now the only beef I have with it is I don't know who the actor is that plays Barry Allen, the Flash, but they desperately need to get that kid to a gym and like give him some steroids, like seriously.
I mean, it's possible to get the lean and fit build.
No. You don't. Did you see it?
No, but I'm assuming he looks like a twig instead of a lean and fit.
Okay, so do you remember in the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, like where he wakes up in the morning and he's putting his clothes on for high school, and he looks like a scarecrow, and then like the morning after when he gets bitten by the radioactive spider, he looks as though he's gone to Gold's Gym for like the last 18 months, right? Okay. The kid that plays the Flash doesn't look like he's gone to Gold's Gym for the last 18 months.
No, but there was the whole "I've got abs" thing.
Yeah, those aren't abs; those are ribs.
We call that a washboard.
Yeah. Okay. That being said, I mean, and I'm joking around, but the guy actually does a really good job. I think they've hit most of the characters spot on. They're definitely kind of. I like the fact that they're keeping sort of with the Arrow sort of vibe to it.
I don't know any of the characters in the Flash universe outside of the Flash. So there's so much they could screw around with that franchise to no end, and I wouldn't even know the difference. It's very different than Arrow though. They're connected, it's a spin-off, but there's like almost no similarity in the shows themselves.
Well, the characters are like, it's kind of interesting. Like the Arrow has always been like the original Green Arrow was a much more darker kind of guy. And the modern Green Arrow is definitely not a really nice dude. He's not nearly as easy to get along with as Batman on a bad day. Let me put it that way. But the Flash has always been a much more upbeat sort of superhero. So, and I think the show reflects that. But generally, I think they did a great job with it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it some more.
Yeah, I'll be watching it. And speaking of DC shows, have you watched Gotham at all?
I have, and I have been pleasantly surprised. It's definitely not inside any of the like sort of storyline universes or anything like that of any of the other Batman offerings that I've seen, but it's really well done. It wasn't great, but it was definitely very well done. It's a very novel approach at how at that part of part of like the DC Batman mythos.
Yeah. I mean, they screwed with so much of it that this is definitely one of those where they're not making any real attempt to keep it anywhere close to previous versions. It seems pretty out there, but it's really well done, and I've really enjoyed watching it so far.
Well, it's really well acted. That's the big thing. It's if they had not called it Gotham and called it anything else and just changed some of the names, it would still be a pretty good show. It's just the fact that they like I said, they overlay kind of the lore, the DC lore in there. So like I said, it's pretty interesting, but I'm kind of keen to see what happens. Like, let's say that show lasts 5 years, then Bruce Wayne will be in high school. Is he going to be like curb stomping bullies in high school or something, trying to get ready to be Batman? I'm kind of curious to see how that works out.
Let's see. Okay. It's okay every once in a while to be breaking the lore, especially when the original lore in question doesn't make too much fantastical sense.
Oh, come on. What do you mean doesn't make sense? He's got like more money than friggin' Warren Buffett. Like I'm sure he could come up with the Batmobile and a really really cool snazzy skin tight bulletproof shirt.
Just saying that some of these hero origin stories were very silly at the time.
Oh no, I don't get well like the original Flash, like back in the 20s or something. The guy, I think the character's name was Jay Garrick. It wasn't Barry Allen, and he wore I want to say like a red shirt with a big lightning bolt across it, blue pants, and he had a World War I pith helmet with like Mercury wings on it. So, and he got his powers from like inhaling like radioactive water vapors or something like that. It was pretty crazy. So you're absolutely right. Some of this stuff's kind of far fetched. Batman, at least it was plausible. Is the way I would describe it. But no, yeah, that was sort of my pop culture shot for the week. I was really enjoying that. I saw the Flash, and I thought that was pretty good. And want to give a shout out to Shadows of Mordor. And there's not a lot of other games right now that I'm really looking into. There's quite a few that are, quote unquote, being developed or whatever that are out there that kind of have my eye. But games that you can actually play, that would probably be the one that I would say is on my checkout list. And I got a lot of people I know are really getting into Diablo 3. I think I played the original Diablo. I've never really gotten into it too much though.
3 is a far cry from 1. I mean, it has more in common with 2, but it's still a far cry from 2 even.
Okay. In a good way or different? Just different?
It's different and it's good in its own way. I mean, there's fans of Diablo 2 that are still pissed off at Diablo 3. The online requirement's one of those things. But overall, it's an enjoyable dungeon grind game. There have been other dungeon grind games that have done it better. A free-to-play one to try out would be Path of Exile. The graphics are a little on the low end, but mechanics is a little bit up there.
Okay. No, I mean that's a good piece of dope, man. I'll have to maybe check that one out.
And if you're willing to spend some dough or just get the demo of it, the other one to try would be, what was it?
I don't know. What was it?
Let me look. It's in my library collection.
Yeah,
Torchlight.
I've heard of that. That's okay. I may have to dig that one.
Torchlight was made from some of the developers of the original Diablo game.
Oh, no kidding. Okay. I tell you what, my throwback game of the day is Gauntlet. I remember playing that in the arcade when I was like a little kid, and I never failed to get I love those 4-player, top down, button mash dungeon grind games. Those things are awesome. I can just see it now. Like Caldari Assault needs health badly. If I could get that, if they could add that sound effect to Dust, the Gauntlet, needs health badly, that would be straight money right there.
Well, if you enjoy Gauntlet so much, they released a new version of it on September 23rd.
No, I'm tracking that. Absolutely tracking that.
Yeah, I played Gauntlet on a Nintendo 64, and that was a very fun party game back then before we had multiplayer online being a big thing.
Yeah, no, that'd be the kind of thing that we would get together and like drink incredibly cheap beer and play when I was in college.
I always say the most trouble thing about it, though, in order to get your 4th player, you had to go get the memory stick.
No, I barely even remember that, but no, you're right. All right, well, I think in the interest of time, since we've been going a fair amount, we have had some kind of fun and some kind of serious conversation tonight. We'll kind of move right on into shout outs. Really interesting show, as I say every week, and that's sort of my trademark. I'm gonna call it interesting because somebody that's listening will think it's interesting, or it's interesting that we're still doing the podcast if you don't think we're interesting. So how about that? We had an incredibly in-depth CPM review from Srizel. In fact, it was so good and near NDA breaking that Iron Wolf Saber had to jump in midstream to shut him up. And then we talked a little bit about sort of the kind of the healthy skepticism that surrounds kind of the state of Dust and Legion, and I think that's a good way to capture it. It's healthy skepticism. It's not nobody's throwing throwing bombs or screaming foul. It's just there's a older segments of the community are looking for maybe different things than what CCP is capable or perhaps even and maybe worst case willing to engage us on. So, and again, no emotion, it just kind of is what it is. But I think we all agree that the community is definitely the strongest part of the game. And I think that's a healthy thing right now. And I think it's going to be healthy going forward. And as I think, without paraphrasing John too much, I think where me and him are coming from is I think it could be so much better if the dev side and the community side would meet more in the middle and try to figure out how to collaborate a little bit. But
thank you.
With that, I'll give a shout out to Agony Unleashed on the Eve side. They are currently duking it out with some folks in Catch. They've been doing it all weekend. I'll probably try to hop on a little bit later and join in with them. Great group of guys to fly with. The exact same atmosphere in that corp that I had in Dust with OSG, or still have in Dust with OSG. And it's one of those things. It's a mark on the wall about all these CCP games that I played Eve for a long time, like many years ago, but I left and I kept coming back and leaving, mostly because I played solo. Well, I didn't even know that Dust was part of Eve for a long time when I first saw Dust on the PS3. Dust made me get back into Eve, and I found a corp in Dust that I'd never found in Eve, and I learned, that's what I was missing on the Eve side was like the social part of the game. And I've been very, very lucky. I've only been in one corp on the Dust side ever, and that's OSG, and I'll stay there. And Agony is the first big boy corp that I've been involved with, and I can't imagine. I mean, it'd take a pretty traumatic series of events to depart that group. It's a very classy group of guys, just like it, and it reminds me a lot of OSG. So it tells me that balancing the community with the same level of detail and fervor that you balance a game mechanic is a powerful tool if you're trying to build a long-term game or a long-term community. So that was my shout out / homage to the corp and social structure of CCP games. Iron Wolf Saber, shout outs.
I like to give a shout out to my guild on Final Fantasy 11 on Leviathan, 14 on Leviathan server. They've been great help to me these last few days, keeping me interested in all sorts of games. Yeah, I was somewhat down this week in terms of emotions, and they've been there for support. I also like to give a shout out to CCP Ratati and Logibro for all the hard work they keep doing. I keep seeing all the stuff that they're working on, and it's pretty amazing. I hope they can start sharing it with you guys pretty soon.
Cool. And John Ripper?
I'd like to give a shout out to Jadek. He's been helping me a lot recently with a lot of different subjects. A shout out to Killer 12. He's been helping me get started with Eve. And a shout out to CCP Ratati. I really like the job he's doing. I'm actually really, really impressed. Thank you, CCP Ratati, and thank you everyone for helping me out.
Awesome, man. Hey, and seriously, really appreciate you coming on tonight, John. It was we wanted to try to get you on the show before, and it just kind of worked out. Slow week, but it was a really fun conversation. We hope you'll come back again, man. Seriously.
Yeah, well, I'm really shy.
You would never get that from your forum post too, man.
But there's going to be a heavy demand for your presence, John. It's going to be. I mean, we're going to have people beating down the door, being like, "Why isn't John on your show this week? Where's John?"
Well, no. The trick is we tell him that it really wasn't John Ripper; it was one of his alts. And Srizel, shout outs, brother.
My shout out goes to John for coming on the podcast and classing it up.
Okay, I can buy that, man. That's good stuff. All right, so we're going to bring episode 26 of Biomassed to a close. And again, really appreciate everybody. Sorry it wasn't on the live stream. Like I said, if you're listening to this, you know it wasn't on the live stream because you probably got it off iTunes or you got it off the biomass.net website. So the only thing I've got left to offer is, what you gonna do when the world's strongest Amar guns run wild on you?